On July 11, 2025, Deputy FBI Director Dan Bongino was thrust into headlines for reasons unrelated to law enforcement routines. Multiple sources revealed he is considering resigning after a fierce clash with Attorney General Pam Bondi over the handling of the Jeffrey Epstein investigation files. Bongino, once a vocal promoter of conspiracy theories about Epstein's death, reportedly took a personal day amid the fallout. The controversy stemmed from discrepancies in the released surveillance video, which was labeled raw but had a missing minute, fanning skepticism among conservative supporters. Bongino had promised allies he would not stay if Bondi was not held accountable for unfulfilled promises of a bombshell client list. The incident marks a dramatic moment in his brief tenure as deputy director and a potential turning point in his career. Daniel John Bongino was born on December 4, 1974, in Queens, New York. Raised by parents of Italian descent, he graduated from Archbishop Molloy High School in 1992 before attending Queens College, where he earned both a bachelor's and master's degree in psychology, followed by an MBA from Pennsylvania State University. His early career began in the New York City Police Department in 1995, and in 1999 he joined the U.S. Secret Service. Over 12 years he served in protective roles, including guarding Presidents George W. Bush and Barack Obama, and training new agents, experiences he later described as formative in understanding both discipline and the pressures of public service. In 2011, Bongino left the Secret Service and shifted to politics. He ran unsuccessfully for the U.S. Senate in Maryland in 2012, and again for Congress in 2014. Though he lost both races, he built a base among conservative voters through sharp rhetoric and a combative style. He then transitioned to broadcasting, hosting a podcast that reached tens of millions and appearing regularly on Fox News. His persona, direct, unfiltered, MAGA-aligned, made him one of the most recognizable conservative media figures of the era. He released several books, including Life Inside the Bubble, The Fight, and Spygate, works that chronicled his skepticism of the FBI and Washington insiders. In February 2025, President Donald Trump announced Bongino's appointment as the 20th Deputy Director of the FBI, a move that surprised many given Bongino's history as an outsider and critic of the agency. He assumed the role in March, succeeding Paul Abbott. The appointment represented a stark shift from commentator to senior federal official. During his short tenure, he publicly embraced the ethos of law enforcement leadership and spoke of restoring public trust, though his appointment immediately raised concerns among critics about partisanship infiltrating leadership at the Bureau. That role and reputation collided headlong in July 2025, when the Department of Justice released an unsigned memo and 11 hours of custody video from Epstein's jail cell, concluding no criminal wrongdoing by others and no client list existed. Shortly after, forensic experts raised concerns that the DOJ's video might have been edited, despite claims of being raw footage. Conservative activists in media had anticipated revelations. Instead, the move fueled frustration. Reports say Bongino angrily confronted Bondi in a White House meeting, accusing her of overpromising and underdelivering. As dissent intensified among Trump allies, Bongino's own posture reportedly shifted from defender to critic of the DOJ's handling of the files. He failed to appear at the FBI on a Friday and told confidants he may resign if Bondi remained. If he steps down, it would mark a swift end to a dramatic and unusual journey from critic of the FBI to its number 2 official. The episode underscores tension between allegiance to base expectations and the reticence of institutional norms. Bongino's position was untenable. As deputy director, he now represented the very bureaucracy he once lambasted. Now he faces a choice between continuing inside the walls or returning to the media role that made him famous. Before this controversy, Bongino's rise had already been defined by reinvention. His early law enforcement career honed discipline and authority. His political campaigns, even in defeat, elevated him among conservative voters. His radio and podcast success built a national platform, and his books established him as a strong voice for those who believe institutions had gone astray. He leveraged personal charisma to channel distrust of the government, But when invited into its corridors, he found ideological friction. Those close to him say Bongino is driven by loyalty to his audience and a deep commitment to transparency as he sees it. His frustrations with the DOJ and media reflect personal beliefs about accountability. During his short time at the FBI, colleagues described him as intense and principled, but also impatient with internal inertia. Now the question is whether that friction is too great to sustain a position within an institution defined by process and hierarchy. Behind the headlines lies a personal story. Bongino is married to Paula Martinez. They have 2 young daughters. A father of Italian heritage, he often speaks of his family's values: faith, hard work, loyalty. His battles with Hodgkin lymphoma in 2020 reinforced his sense of mortality and commitment to fight for beliefs. Overcoming cancer deepened his empathy, while reinforcing the belief that institutions must be held to standards of transparency and integrity, even if doing so required stepping back from government. Looking at his books, especially Spygate and Exonerated, one sees a pattern. Bongino is attracted to the narrative of being an outsider, railing against entrenched power. Yet when given leadership within that same system, he appears to struggle with reconciling populist expectations with bureaucratic realities. If he resigns, speculation mounts on what's next. Some believe he'll immediately return to media, resuming his podcast and commentary as a critic outside government. Others say he may write another book exposing internal dynamics in the FBI and DOJ, boosting both transparency and his brand. Still others suspect he could transition to a different role in Trump-affiliated political circles, advising on media strategy or legal oversight. In the end, Dan Bongino's story is one of contrast. Public figure turned agent, outsider turned insider, critic turned official. Now caught in a showdown between the expectations of his political base and the policies of institutional leadership, he risks alienating both. Whether he resigns or stays, his brief tenure has exposed the fault lines between mythology and reality, activism and administration, spectacle and service. At age 50, Bongino has already lived more public chapters than many do in a lifetime. From the streets of New York to the Secret Service, from conservative airwaves to a top FBI post, his life reflects ambition, defiance, and adaptability. But the Epstein controversy may define his legacy far more than his years in uniform. In the months ahead, observers will watch closely. Will Bongino bow out or dig in? Can he balance loyalty to his supporters with fidelity to institution? Can he remain credible in the public eye while inside the halls of power? His decision now may either cement his narrative as the honest critic unwilling to compromise, or tarnish his claim to principled leadership. Dan Bongino's life underscores a paradox. One can speak truth to power, but the question remains whether power will ever withstand truth.